Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is Fear II. And of course we call it Fear II because we're talking to Dr. CPoe, who recently gave us some excellent information on fear, so much so that we felt that it would be appropriate to have him to make an appearance again to deal with some of the issues of fear. And of course, Dr. Poe, let me welcome you to this show this morning to continue a conversation that we had recently dealing with this whole issue of September the 11th and the fear that generated out of that. Let's have you to start the show off, Dr. Poe, by giving us a short biographical sketch in terms of your experiences and et cetera, and perhaps catch our audience up on some of the things that we talked about dealing with fear the last time that we had you here as our guest, because we're going to call this Fear II. That is the second phase of it. You gave us so much excellent information the first time around, and we recognize that we did not have a chance to finish what we wanted to do in terms of dealing with this issue. So let's do it from that perspective.
Okay. Dr. Haney, I'm a psychiatrist here in Nashville in private practice. I'm also a minister of the gospel. I finished Tennessee State back in 1960, Mahara in '64, and did my internship in Chicago, did my residency in Berkeley, California, spent 2 years in the service, came back to Nashville in 1976, was called to preach in 1977, and since that time I've been trying to integrate my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and my practice of psychiatry.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Poe, you were with us quite recently, and we dealt with the issue of the attack on America. And I think that it was generally agreed that one of the outcomes of this is excessive fear. And you gave us quite a bit of information about excessive fear, but perhaps for those members of our audience who did not have an opportunity to hear that first show, why don't you sort of summarize some of the information that you gave us during that particular time?
Right. I indicated that the events of September 11th, I feel, was a traumatic event, emotionally, mentally, as well as spiritually. And I'm convinced that it intensified fear, fear of injury, fear of death, I think perhaps to some degree in all of us, and people not even in this country. I also indicated that the people who I feel were most impacted were probably the people who were closest geographically to the events that occurred in New York City as well as in Washington. In addition, I said the people who were greatly impacted were also people who were living a self-centered lifestyle prior to September 11th, because self-centered behavior intensifies fear. People, on the other hand, who were attempting to live a life pleasing to God, who were involved in church, involved in trying to treat other people like they wanted to be treated, these people, I believe, were least impacted by the events of September 11th. And so what we said then was self-centered behavior on the part of an affected person and or self-centered behavior that impacts an affected person does contribute to excessive fear. We also said that excessive fear has many different faces, one of which is excessive anxiety, insomnia, depression, paranoia, mood swings, irritability, and some others as well. And so we attempted to say that a major problem in our nation today, of course, is depression. And we said that oftentimes, at least in my view, depression tends to be more a consequence of being on the receiving end of the abusive behavior of others, okay? And I said that people who perpetrate abuse probably not as often depressed, but are more often paranoid. I also indicated that I feel that the higher prevalence rate of depression in females, 2 to 1 compared to males, is probably because females are more often on the receiving end of the abusive behavior of males, whereas males are more often on the perpetrating end.
Very good. Very good. And so